he is also the first author of this paper. The other authors are Gerhard Schubert from TU Munich, Liel Brenner from Iowa University, and also Nicolas Martellaro from Carnegie Mellon University.
So in the study, we focus on diffusion models. The diffusion models have significant promise as they can generate novel images. For example, this exciting avocado armchair that was a demo of DALI really intrigued our imagination. The basic idea behind diffusion models is really simple. We take an image and noise it in few steps. Then we take a neural network and we train it on the opposite way. So the model starts from a random noise with a text prompt and walks up to the final image. We were really curious about how this new technology can be used to generate architecture.
So once DALI beta launched, we tested it. We compiled over 100 image prompts, text prompts to test how it works with architecture. So we were really satisfied with how it looked like with interior and exterior renderings, and also how it worked with, for example, design or design sketches. And we also tried to experiment with various additional qualities of text prompts, adding more information and checking the results.
But we got also these images for asking for plans and sections. So our computer scientists said, "Ooh, cool, plans." And we said, "No, that's garbage. These are not plans." He said, "How do you know these are not just bad plans? Let's do a human subject experiment and ask people if these are plans or not." So we said, "We are architects, we know these are not plans." So after that, we concluded that DALI and all these diffusion models, they can generate nice pictures of buildings, but they cannot generate engineering documents. But we still wanted to know how this tool can be used in architecture, and we wanted empirical evidence of how architects use these tools. So we decided to observe architecture students in a workshop and document their creative process. The research was guided by this question: how could image generating models be used in the context of the architecture studio? And we wanted to explore how the design process was influenced, how architectural prompts are structured, which models were used more frequently, and what model outcome was used and what was not used, and to identify the challenges and opportunities using these models.
So we conducted a 3-day student workshop with 25 participants, and we started the workshop with an introductory lecture on how to use the models, the selected models. Afterwards, the students received some design tasks, and there was a discussion and sharing of results between them. On the second day, the students received a design brief to design with an architectural design. So they were supposed to combine their own creativity with the generations from diffusion models to create a model, to present it. And we also recorded the desktop screens of the participants, and we asked them to fill surveys on their general feelings about the use of image generators. Here you can see one of the examples of such screen recordings. Here you can see that the students started with exploring the ideas, with thinking about the possibilities. Then after they received the satisfactory results with Stable Diffusion or DALI, they started to model the same thing in Revit, usually using the picture as an underlay and tracing it, sometimes even one-to-one. We tagged all the videos like this on timelines, with marked with colors the use of particular tools, both the AI tools, the diffusion models, as well as architectural software, both BIM software, 3D modeling software, CAD software. And after doing this, we were able to get to some conclusions. We also marked which text prompts were used and which of them were further used by the students and which ones were ignored by the students, and this way we call them successful and unsuccessful generations. And this way we were also able to find out that the mostly used diffusion model was Midjourney with around with average 13 used by a student. And we also compared the success rate of those models, and we also found out that Midjourney had around 40% of success rate, while all the other models had around 20% of success rate, with a very similar deviation, standard deviation. And we also established a common scheme for the design process by students, which means that they started with inspirational search, what's more like an exploration of ideas. Then they started to improve their prompts to get new values, new qualities of the design. When they liked the prompt, sometimes they still like to improve it, to maybe extend the picture, to design to generate variations of this picture. And then they collected the pictures that they liked and they used them for further modeling, sometimes going back to those diffusion models, sometimes not. And at the end, they rendered the picture, or sometimes I don't know. And we also analyzed the text prompts itself. So they also usually had the same pattern. So the students started with the model type, like if it should be an architectural floor plan, or a section, or a rendering, etc. Then they added the information about the building program, its function, size, and additional parameters, the building's location, materials, and at the end, sometimes in further generation, they also added information about some additional features, like that the building should also have a balcony or a cafeteria. And one of the common problems that the students met was, it was already mentioned during another presentation, lack of coherence between generations. So they really tried hard to, for example, reuse a picture that they generated before, provided in form of a link, but usually it didn't work. Some other students find out this idea to generate all the pictures together, like an architectural poster, and you can see it also kind of failed because they are not coherent at all. The floor plan doesn't match to the section, but it was a nice try. And another thing that we found really interesting was combinational creativity. It means combining or merging two ideas to generate something new out of them. And usually they provided names of famous architects, and sometimes even two of them, like on this example here, Gaudi with eCAADe, together to merge their styles in one design.
But a significant issue we've spotted was design fixation. Design fixation refers to a situation where designers limit their creative output because they depend on features on a pre-existing design. We saw that the student desperately tried to improve the design using the AI by providing chosen images as input. However, the models diverged too much from the input, making the improvement something totally new. On the other hand, they stuck to the generated images. They reverse engineered them into 3D, and they didn't design, which means they did not iterate on the outputs. For example, this is an example of a student that took this image, and this was the outcome, which is very similar, and it is a poor design. So in conclusion, we explored the usability of image-generating AI models in architectural design. Our findings indicate that AI models can stimulate creativity and innovation. However, there are significant challenges that call upon more research. Using AIs can cause design fixation. Using models the models are limited in the design development process. They also generate non-coherent, non-logical architectural drawings. So the issues underscore the need for future research, and basically that's it.
So, any questions or comments, suggestions?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your fantastic presentation. I was interested to know, you showed the timelines of the process. And there is a big difference between timelines. I mean, you could even, have like 3 groups regarding the timeline. And then you said something about the quality of the output. Could you find some kind of a correlation regarding the timeline and also the use of tools regarding the outcomes that you labeled as good, let's say, not exceptional or bad?
So we haven't labeled them as good or bad, we labeled them as successful or unsuccessful.
Yeah.
And we watched the videos and checked if a student used the image or not. We haven't checked if
Okay,
the image
not
is
the
a good
quality
or not.
I
So
see.
it's something else. We only checked if the student saved the picture or maybe improved the text prompt, but we haven't asked ourselves if we consider this picture a good architecture or a bad architecture.
So how about the timeline? I mean, again, people that worked for a longer period, did you have a kind of a correlation which were more successful or which were not?
So unfortunately for some students, they stopped the videos when they started designing Revit, so we can expect that the shortest timelines were simply continuing with software, but it was not recorded. It was a small problem for us, but generally I think we haven't spot any correlation between the prompt quality and the further workflow.
I can only comment that we had technical issues because of the internal review board. This is an experiment with students,
Yeah.
so they were not required to send us the videos, and they got a mark even if they didn't participate. Really. So this is the data that we got. We tried
I
to
see.
normalize it as much as we can,
Yeah.
but we can see that people use this magenta color. This is the 3D color at
Yeah.
the end. And we saw in the videos that once they started with that, they maybe tried once or twice to develop the design with AI, but they saw it that didn't work and they just
Left.
reverse engineered it.
Mm.
So this is the data we have.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. It's actually quite amazing, and this graph really makes you think of like how this interplay of like CAD and generative is going to be occurring in a sequential manner. Like how often do they go back and forth, like mid-journey and line or whatever. I just wanted to ask something in regards to this fixation that we're talking about, like design fixation. Is that, do you think, a problem of the model that it does not diverse, as in like the data set is not that diverse in order to generate more or explore more, or is it occurring in regards to the actual use? You understand what I'm saying? To the actual like user experience. Let's say that the people are using it in that manner, so they kind of like fixate in this idea. So is it like a problem of the model, or is it a problem of maybe it could get embedded in another manner in the workflow?
I think this kind of problem, the model that the pictures are too perfect. They are beautiful, especially the ones from Midjourney. They look like ready renderings. It also makes the students think that they already have the project. They only need to prepare some documentation. And usually when we design a building, we have this iterative process. So we design something, we see how it looks like, maybe we make a simulation or something. But in this case, the final outcome was already there, and this was a little bit limiting for the design.
We also have an observation that the students that use DALI more, they got even with quality.
Okay.
But the outcome designs were more interesting. We didn't measure this yet, but this is only an observation.
That's because Balance doesn't generate such good quality immediately, so they put
Yes.
more effort in the later stage.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting.
Happy to show questions. Yes, please.
Just a quick question. Do you think you over-constrain the set of outcomes by dictating the structure of the problem? And the reason is that, as actually discussed in the AI workshop, is that if there's some creativity happens in the latent space, how you kind of move around those kind of dimensions or vectors of supervised learning. But a big part of the creativity happens in a language model that translates text to the code, to the whatever categories you are doing, right? So the way you use language in the hierarchy changes drastically. What is the first word, what is the second word, right? Transposition. So there's two layers that happens to create the creativity. Not only what's happening within AI, but the AI, there's multiple AIs, but the AI that translates your code, your text prompt to kind of machine readable, matrix that is being sent to the latent space, right, the model. So I'm just wondering if, I find a lot of open-ended prompts providing very interesting solutions that are not as structured. So do you think that it's structured at some point? Did you try different structures for your
So
prompt?
this is exactly this prompt engineering that also students were experimenting with, and we spotted some examples of students who, for example, cut some part of the prompt from the front and put it at the end, and they indeed received different output, but those were only few. So I don't know if it answers your question, because I think it's also interesting, but it should be another topic of another research.
We did not tell them how to prompt the models.
So I just recently also doing something, and by mistake I pressed Control something. I was in Stable Diffusion on my computer, and I interpreted this as a carriage ending. So I actually created two images as two prompts, because I could enter a Control N or something, and by breaking the prompt, one prompt to two, I was getting very different, very interesting solutions. So you kind of, even just kind of by mistake, you realize there's a lot of how it's being structured, and that's why people often in Journey and so on, they even have prompts that says 20%, let's say, Kandinsky or Zaha Hadid, 60% of Gaudi, and they actually have this kind of structured with that says 0.4 stuff, and they're using different kind of designations to achieve even percentage-wise do this. So this is where the translation, I think, happens. That's why people often skip prompt as a completely word and do this kind of semi-prompts that use some of the kind of translation language that goes back to the model.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this.